Okay, we're officially live. Welcome, everybody. Give it a few moments for some more people on social to jump in here. What's up, Nikki? On Rod's in the house, 25 Cent, Ghosty Jazz. Some shout outs to some of the Discord peeps. What a day in the markets today, which we'll talk about here in a minute, but monster red candle printed today, over a 20-point move on SPY from top to bottom. Triple Q, similar candle. Okay, Intuit and Webull are reporting. To my understanding, they're supposed to report right at 4. This is Webull, 4 p.m. Eastern's with earnings whispers saying forecast EPS 0.03, forecast revenue 133 million. They're anchored VWAP right around $12 a share, so they're trading a lot lower than that, just above $8. Intuit, it's supposed to report at 4 as well. It's right now. Forecast EPS $3.09. Forecast revenue $3.76 billion. They're trading just under their anchored VWAP, at around $6.50 a share. A little bit lower than that. Well, they're selling off here, so it's looking like Intuit's data is probably out. Go 1 minute chart here. It's at 630.75 right now. Look at this volume profile real quick. Zoom out a little bit. Let's see where there could be some support. I mean, there's a lot of volume that came in around 600 to like 620. It's kind of trading just above that now. It's actually looks like he's getting a positive reaction now. So, wow, did this just reverse out of nowhere? It sure did. Look at this. Look at this red candle. Initial reaction, very red, and then just totally turned around on a dime here. Now it's positive in after hours, up $5.29 a share, over a $600 stock, so a little less than 1% up, right? But that was a hell of a move it did at first, and just came all the way back up. Now in the 640s. Intuit was down 1.8% on the day. Okay, over to Webull just for a second. We'll go 1 minute chart. Definitely interested in Bull's earnings data. I am bullish on them long term. I think once they get a few quarterly earnings reports under their belt, showing some profit, I think they're going to be okay. A lot of stocks got hammered today, as we know. S&P was down 1.5%. NASDAQ was down 2.3%. The Dow was down 0.8%. VIX up at 26.79. Hey, what's up, Farouk? On Discord? Yes. Did they change the rules for 0 DT on SPY that you can even sell them after 4 p.m.? Well, if it's SPY, I think QQQ is the same. You can trade those until 4:15 Eastern. Maybe that's what you mean. Other than that, I'm not aware of any other, any changes or anything like that. I just know you can trade those to 4:15. You're supposed to be able to. So I think maybe that's what you were asking. Oh, no. Yeah, no, I mean, I guess it depends on the broker. Not every broker is created equal. I think maybe on Robinhood or something, yeah, I think the cutoffs might be 3:30 or something. But if you're transacting your trades with the bigger broker, Vanguard, Fidelity, Schwab, things like that, you can trade SPY to 4:15. They don't really have limits on that. I think maybe Robinhood and some of the pay for order flow brokers probably maybe have a cutoff in the afternoon sometime or something, but I hope that helps. Let me go back to Bull and Intuit here. Yeah, you should be able to sell. Like I said, you got till 4:15 Tammy says 0 DTEs might not be 415. Yeah, maybe that's true. I don't really trade 0 DTE. It's kind of like gambling a little bit. Very risky. Those contracts can change very, very quickly. All right, let's go to Webull. Yeah, there was a lot of people in the Discord that made some money on some puts today. I know the other coach, Mad Maverick, was putting out some alerts during the day, and one of our members got like over 1,000% return, which was amazing just to be able to get that kind of gain on a day like today. Obviously, trading the downside. I personally opened up some SPY put debit spreads on Tuesday, so those are printing for me. So I'm real glad I had those in place. Expiration date, it was next Friday, the 28th. It was either the 28th or the 5th. I'll have to go back and check my position, but I got quite a few positions open right now. But I've been selling a lot of covered calls. Luckily, I was selling them before today happened. So covered calls are printing, kind of a little downside hedge there, if you will. But anyways, we got Webull reporting earnings here. Looks like the data's out. Intuit's price action just super sloppy. Initial negative reaction, then it turned green and was up almost 1%. Now it's back down again. So just indecision on Intuit at the moment. We'll take a look at the earnings after we look at Bull. Bull's getting a positive reaction, which is nice to see. Bull, which is Webull, closed the regular session at 8.27. They were actually green on the day. One of the few stocks that were green. I mean, there was a few stocks green, but overall the market. I mean, you could probably just pull up the heat map, and it's probably just glaring red. I'll pull it up real quick and just kind of see. Yeah, I mean, there was a few green spots here. Berkshire Hathaway was up 0.5 point. There was quite an insurance sector. Give me 1 second. My computer just froze. I don't know if y'all can still hear me or see me, but all my screens just froze. I apologize. All right, my entire computer just froze, so I'm not even sure if y'all can hear me or anything. Let me see if it resets. Okay, looks like I'm back. Sorry about that, little technical difficulties there. I got like 4 monitors hooked up. Let me just close down these earnings whispers. We don't really need that anymore. So anyways, I was talking about the heat map. Sorry about that, everybody. Let me just scroll up a little bit, go full screen on this. Okay, so like I was saying, there was this few pockets of green insurance specifically. There was quite a few there. But overall, I mean, look at NVIDIA. Just look at semiconductor, just super bright red. Obviously, tech is taking the brunt of the hit, I would think. Let's pull up bar chart. I'm gonna go over Bull's earnings data here in a second. I just think, you know, with the day that we had today, you know, it's crazy. So I just want to see what the sector information shows. There we go. Let me share the screen here. Okay. Okay, there's sector information right here. And yep, looks like my screen didn't get shared on Discord. So I don't know what just happened to my computer, but it's super weird. There we go. Okay. Yeah, I had my, this is for Tammy on Discord. I did have my screen shared, and for some reason it kicked me off of it. But you can see the sector information. Look at tech way down here at the bottom. The sector in general, down 2.67% today. Consumer discretionary took a huge hit. Obviously, these are risk on sectors. So all the money flowed out of there. Just about every single sector was red today, except consumer staples. That's kind of where money flows to when there's blood on the streets, if you will. So it just kind of paints a picture. I mean, money came out of just about every sector, and consumer staple was the only sector green. So a lot of investors are fleeing to consumer staples right now to keep their portfolios, as stable as they can be. So just wanted to point that out, what's kind of going on today. And also the reason for the selling mainly was the chances of a Fed interest rate cut in December are basically evaporating. We can pull up the CME Fed Watch tool here. I'll put this link in the chat for everybody. And you can bookmark it. This is the Fed Watch tool. It basically gives the probabilities of the rate cut or interest rate hike for the different Fed meetings. And you get this toolbar up top with the dates of the future Fed interest rate meetings. So the next one's on December 10th. And you can I was just looking at this a few weeks ago. I look at it maybe once a week or so, but just a few weeks ago or a month ago, the chance of a rate cut in December was like 80 or 90%. Look, it's dropped all the way to 39% now. So now there's more of a chance of the rate just staying the same. 60% chance they just keep it the same. And now only a 39% that we get a cut on December 10th meeting. So you see how the story's the story has changed. We went from almost certain we're going to get a rate cut in December to now it's looking like we're probably not going to get one. And if you think about it, when the chances of the Fed rate cut in December were like 80, 90%, market makers and institutions, hedge funds, they priced that in. That's probably how, part of the reason why we kind of rallied the past few months a lot, making all-time highs left and right, and now that December rate cut's kind of off the table, well, not completely off the table, but it's certainly heading that way. Now we got what happened today, huge red candle on SPY. Look at this, over a 20-point candle here, 22 points almost. Crazy. So let's go back to bull. Thank you, Mad Maverick, for posting the info there for everyone on Discord. I'm going to go on my other screen and make sure I give all my YouTube and X viewers the data. So bull actually did from a bird's eye view, it looks like they did fairly well. They beat EPS. The forecast for EPS was 0.03. They just reported 0.07. The revenue expectations was 137 million roughly, and they just reported 156 million. So they beat revenue by like 19 million. EPS and revenue for year over year, bright green. Quarter over quarter, nice and green, double-digit growth there. So the earnings look good. But so they had an initial positive reaction, and then they came back down. Nonetheless, they are still green, 1.3% green in after hours. Let me see if I can get some more information for everybody, like I always do. Okay, so total revenues, and this is for bull. Total revenues increased 55% year over year to 156.9 million. And let's see here. Trading related revenue increased 64% year over year. That's pretty good. Adjusted net income increased 38.6 million year over year, shifting from an adjusted net loss of 5.7 million to adjusted net income of 32.9 million. So now they're profitable. From the same time last year, they lost money. They lost 5.7 million same time last year. Now they're actually in positive net income territory. So that's good. I like that a lot. A little bit of commentary from the CEO of Webull. His name is Anthony Denier. He says, "We are proud of another strong quarter with record revenue and customer assets driven by technological innovation, geographic and product expansion, and a favorable market backdrop. We continue to execute and grow our platform as showcased by the launch of Vega, which is their new AI tool that brings personalized market analysis and investing insights, in addition to the delivery of a variety of new offerings, including corporate bonds, access to event-based prediction markets." Y'all saw that recently? They're doing the prediction markets now. I think the service provider's Kalshi, but it goes through Webull. Well, if you have Webull, you can go through Kalshi. And I've heard the prediction market's going to kind of blow up in a good way next year. But you can now do event-based prediction trades or bets, whatever you want to call them. I was looking at some the other day on some sports games, and they're calling them event contracts is what they're calling them. Each contract's like worth $1, and then you'll have the spread between. So you got two teams playing each other, and so the spread on a $1 event contract would be like the person favored to win the game would be at like 0.80, and then. So I think how it works is like you would pay $80. I'm just pulling numbers, but trying to give you all the idea. So a $1 event contract, the person favored would be 0.80. The underdog would be 0.20. So kind of how that works is like if you want to bet on the team that's favored, then you'd bet like 80 for a potential return of $20 on that $80. Now, if you bet on the underdog at 20, then the potential return on that's 80. So you see how kind of like the spread between the favorite and the underdog. I was just kind of looking at it a little bit, and that's kind of what I gathered on the event contracts that you can trade now. And yes, that is on the Webull app. I saw it on my mobile app. So it's the Webull mobile app. You'll see a new section where you can actually bet on sports or trade. They're calling them event contracts. So I guess it would be trading event contracts is kind of how they're, promoting it in a way. It's very, very interesting. So, Webull added some new features. They added corporate bonds, and then we talked about access to event-based prediction markets, and the reintroduction of crypto. So CEO had some nice things to say there. Look at Intuit getting a nice move up here. We'll look at that here in a second. The CFO of Webull says our revenue growth accelerated in the third quarter and continued to comfortably outpace our expense growth. That's good, underscoring our disciplined execution and commitment to profitable growth. The CFO says, we remain focused on creating long-term sustainable shareholder value while investing in high growth areas, product innovation, and expanded global access to our sophisticated trading platform. So just a little bit of commentary from Webull's higher up there. We're going to find out when their earnings web call is and how to get there. I'm just looking for some red flags if I can find any, because they had that initial positive reaction, but then they just came right back down. It's trading just above where they closed the regular session. So, they're up almost 1% still. So I suppose that's good. Let's take a look at some other things. So this is from Wolf Financial. Webull delivered a breakout quarter with record revenue, strong profitability, and accelerating user activity. Trading volume surged. Customer assets hit all-time highs, and the company leaned into global expansion, crypto relaunches, corporate bonds, and its new AI tool, Vega, which we talked about that already a little bit. Profitability sharply improved as revenue growth outpaced expenses. That's good. I mean, I know there's not a lot of buying going on right now on Webull, but this looks like positive data to me. Not seeing too much negative things here. And the growth on EPS and revenue year over year are fantastic. Massive growth. Killer quarter, in my opinion. I think there is a lot of upside with Webull. I really do. And once they can get a few consecutive profitable quarters under their belt, you're going to start seeing a lot of buying on this thing. I'm telling you. Not financial advice, but I'm personally running the wheel strategy on it right now. So I'm just going to write contracts on it while we're kind of waiting for the price to appreciate back up. So I'm just going to continue running the wheel strategy, selling cash secured puts, see how many rounds of that I can get in before I get assigned. Actually, I already got assigned already. So I'm on the covered call side right now. But I was able to get in 6 rounds of cash secured puts before I even got assigned one single share. So I had kind of built up quite a bit of income or profit, if you will, on the cash secured put side. I'd built up quite a bit of that before I even got assigned, which really helped out a lot with the downturn in the markets we've seen lately. So, but now I'm on the covered call side. So I'm just going to keep rinsing and repeating the covered calls. And, one day my shares will probably get called away, but I'm going to make as much income on the covered call side as I can until that happens. And then if when my shares do get called away, I'll just wait for a red day or a nice pullback, and then I'll re-enter with cash secured puts again and just kind of rotate the wheel all over again. So I'm gonna keep trading Webull for the foreseeable future because I do think they have a lot of upside in the future. But like I say, they just need some profitable quarterly earnings under their belts, so investors can have a little more trust in them. They are selling off a little bit right now. Let me see if I can find anything negative. But to be honest with you, I mean, everything is selling off. So it might not even be totally the fault of Webull, if you know what I mean. The markets got hammered today. I don't know if y'all remember in my stream yesterday. Matter of fact, it was on Tuesday when I first told everyone when I entered that downside hedge trade on Tuesday. Those things are printing right now. So I am making a little bit of money with all this selling. And I entered on Tuesday, I entered some SPY put debit spreads. I entered like 5 of them. And they had 17 days of time on it. Those things are printing, obviously, today. I put the spread at the 661 and the 660 strike. It was a $1 wide spread. And so my debit spread is like 10 points in the money right now, which is good. If you open an out of the money debit spread, you want those to go in the money. That's how you win those. Credit spread, we want those. An out of the money credit spread, we want those to stay out of the money, right? Because we're collecting credit at the beginning of the trade. But yeah, Bull is selling off right now. Let me find out when their earnings web call is, and then we'll see what happened to Intuit, because Intuit's holding up quite nice. They're up almost 3%. They're up over $18 a share right now. Intuit is. So investors seem to be taking their earnings data positively. Unfortunately, Bull's selling off a little bit. Let me see what else I can find. I'm going to pull up their investor relations page too and find out when they're going to do that earnings web call, because definitely want to hear that. Okay, so let me just pull it up on the side here. All right, let me just, oops, let me go to press releases here. All right, so if you want to take a deeper dive into Webull's earnings, I'm gonna, let me go back one page here. Let me post this link. And this will get you to Webull's investor relations page. I'm going to put that on the bottom of my screen for everybody. Almost 500 people tuning in. Brutal trade on Discord. Why selling off with good earnings? You know, that's just how it goes sometimes. You know, we've seen companies crush earnings and have solid growth and sell off. So let me see if I can find any red flags, but you know, looking at what happened to the indexes today, it's not really surprising they're selling off with good earnings, to be honest with you. Today was just a seller's day for sure. Let me see if I can see anything negative. Operating expenses. Let me see here. So their operating expenses did increase by $20 million compared to the same time last year. So that's one thing that could be negative. Let me see here. Trading activity. Adjusted. Now, even though expenses were 20 million more, their adjusted net income was around 27 million more. So that's kind of how they still pulled a profit. So I guess there's a kind of a negative that their expenses were $20 million more. But to be honest with you, with the price action we had today on the indexes, your guess is as good as mine on why it's selling off. I mean, it's everything sold off today because the December interest rate cuts are fading away. They're kind of going away right now. So unfortunately, that's what we're up against. But that's why I've been barking for the past few weeks about hedging, and hopefully people listen to me. You know, all I can do is suggest. I mean, it's not financial advice, but you know, I'm going to let you know what I'm doing. And I opened another downside trade on Tuesday, and I'm glad I did, because I'm making money now when everyone else is kind of crying the blues. But you know, it's tough when everyone's seeing drawdown. But just some words of encouragement. You know, if you have open positions and they're on good companies with good fundamentals and good financials, it's gonna be okay. All right, the market always comes back. Now, if you're invested in crappy companies, you know, there's nothing really I can tell you. You know, you got to do better at putting your hard-earned money into companies that are actually worth a damn. You know, if you're just investing all your money into speculative, horrible asset or horrible financial companies that have bad fundamentals, and it's a total speculative play, like they're going to save the world or something, you know, that's kind of on you. You know, you got to get better about putting your money into solid investments. You know, I'm not saying just completely cut out the speculative trades, but you know, that should just be like a small part of your capital. Okay, you know, put a little bit of money into some speculative type trades. That's fine. But you know, if you've got a ton of money and a big percentage of your capital into those kind of trades, you're not really doing this correctly, in my opinion. You know, the companies that I trade, you know, they got big names, and you know, their fundamentals aren't bad. So I don't mind seeing drawdown, because I know once the markets recover, they're going to head back in the right direction. In the meantime, this is very important. While we're waiting, you should be playing the downside a little bit. And if the open positions you have 100 shares of the company, you should have already been selling covered calls to reduce cost basis and create a little bit of a cushion. You know, so there's lots of things you can do to be proactive and Unfortunately, after what happened today, a lot of people are being reactive. But I like to have things in place just in case a day like today happens. And today was a perfect example of why it's good to do that. So you kind of just take a little bit of your money and buy insurance. That's kind of what I call it. When the markets start looking kind of volatile and shaky, I mean, a good example, go to daily chart on SPY. Look what happened last month in October. That was kind of your warning right there, that things are starting to get a little flaky. When this happened, this back on October 10th, when we had that 20-point candle there, it ended up recovering, but very sloppy price action with a bunch of gaps, and ended up coming right back down, and here we are today. So as soon as you start seeing signs of the market's getting potentially weaker, and it's happened several times. It just so happens the past 2 times it's happened, we actually did break below the EMAs. But ever since we got out of that correction in April, the price has come down to the EMAs and threatened it quite a few times. And anytime that happens, you should be getting ready to start hedging right there. And look at it this way, on these times that it happened, we ended up not needing the hedge, but it's a small price to pay to be able to sleep good at night. So anytime the price looks like here, like it did back here, here's a time in August it happened. So this was like beginning of August. This was the towards the end of August. There was a few times we got threatened and there was some selling. This was in June. Anytime the index, this is SPY, of course, it's the ETF that follows the S&P, but same price action really. So anytime it does this, you should be getting prepared to kind of get into a how do I protect my capital mindset, right? That's what you should be doing. Now, not every time you're going to need your hedge, but to pay a little bit of money to just have it in place, it's a drop in the bucket compared to how much drawdown you're going to see with a candle like today, and you didn't have any insurance in place. So I hope that makes sense for everyone. Just kind of how I approach trading. When the going's good, it definitely is a fun time, isn't it? But when the going isn't so good, and we kind of get threatened and things seem a little shaky, that's where you should be focusing on how do I not lose money. You put the idea of making profits on hold for a little bit, and let's figure out how do I not lose money. I don't want to occupy my mind with, oh, I'm going to make all this money. No, we need to be laser focused. The indexes are threatening some EMAs, possibly about to start downtrending. You need to immediately switch to a mindset of damage control and hedging, and how do I not lose money? And if you can get good at doing that, you're going to be just fine, all right? And again, even if you haven't been hedging, like I said at the beginning of the stream, as long as you have your money in good companies, you shouldn't be freaking out too much. I know it sucks to open up your broker account and see the drawdown every day, and you're going to have to stare at it until the market bottoms out and heads back up. But during this time is when we're playing the downside, maybe like weekly or biweekly trades, kind of rinse and repeating. That's what I do. I like to rinse and repeat SPY put debit spreads. I'll just do that every 2 weeks. So I'm bringing in some money every 2 weeks while I'm waiting for the bottom to come in. And that money I'm bringing in every 2 weeks helps offset the drawdown that we see on our long positions. So that just got to start just speaking in general, but you got to start treating this like a business. There's a place and time to have fun and games, but it's time to buckle down and get serious right now if you care about your capital. All right. So back to Webull. Had a positive reaction, 100% retraced. Then it turned into a negative reaction. And now that negative reaction has basically 100% retraced. So bull, this kind of goes back to Brutal Trade. It looks like he jumped out of the chat, but he was asking what, with bull, why selling off with good earnings? Well, we just don't know. There's indecision. You could have said, look at initial positive reaction, then it retrace 100%. Negative reaction, why is it selling off with good earnings? Look what just happened in the past 10, 15 minutes. It's already, that sell move just got faded. It's back up here. So there's no rhyme or reason with the price action sometimes. You just got to have to be patient and give it some time and wait for a trend to form. Once the trend forms, then you can start trading in that direction. But you can't really trade this right now. So I'd be sitting on the sidelines. I wouldn't be trying to trade this in after hours with limit orders or anything like that, because it's obvious indecision. I think maybe investors might just be waiting on the earnings web call. Overall, from a bird's eye view, Webull, the numbers they reported, excellent growth. The year over year, quarter over quarter numbers were excellent, and they actually made a profit. So a few more earnings quarters where they can show investors that they're on a consistent profitability. I think there is some great upside with Webull. And like I said towards the beginning of the stream, I've been willing this for a few months now. So I've already built up a decent amount of credit that I've collected and pocketed leading up to today. So I'm in it for the long haul with Bull. Of course, since I do have an open position with it, I am biased. But I think they have a bright future. It's relatively a new listing on the exchanges. Robinhood has several years head start on them. So, and look at Robinhood now, and go back to Robinhood's chart and look at the first few years of after they got listed. They were down here at $6, $7, $8. They did the same thing. They had to prove to investors, through consecutive quarterly earnings that they're launching these new products, and they got additional revenue streams, and the revenues are improving. And after a certain number of quarters under their belt showing profitability and growth, look what happened to Robinhood. It freaking went to the moon. I don't see really anything different. Basically, Bull is capable of doing the same thing. They just need a little bit more time in the market, a little more historical data under their belt. I definitely think Webull has a bright future. So like I said, I've been running the wheel strategy on it for the past few months. I've already brought in some decent income, and I'm just going to keep running the wheel on it for the foreseeable future. So that's kind of my 2 cents on Webull. But anyways, I got the link on the bottom of my screen. That'll take you to their earnings web call. And their earnings web call, let's just go here. News and events. So here's the third quarter results right here. So if you wanted to take a deeper dive into it, let me refresh the screen here. Right there. Oh, it's like not even click. Okay, it's down here. 1120 right here. So we'll click on that. And it's a 10-page PDF document. And this will break down in detail their earnings data. And there's a little bit of commentary from the higher ups right there. You got total revenues, operating expenses, net income, all that beautiful stuff. Let's see if okay, so the conference call for Bull, it's at 5 p.m. Eastern, right here. All right, so that link on the bottom of my screen will take you there. Starts in about 20 minutes. I'm personally not going to stream their earnings web call, which I talked to the staff over here in the Discord. I might start streaming the actual earnings web call. I'll still do my earnings stream before it and go over the data that was released and guidance and all that stuff. And then that'll kind of just feed into the actual earnings web call. I think I'll probably start doing that, but I'll let everyone know. But anyways, yeah, Webull's results are out. I don't think they were bad. The only really negative thing I could see is their operating expenses were up 20 million from the same year before, but their revenue was also up. So that kind of washed out, I think. So it might be all about the earnings web call at 5 p.m. Eastern. and that's in 20 minutes. And maybe the higher ups, so the upper management can give more clarity on their earnings data. Yeah, I really don't got much else more today. Today's Thursday, so we made it to the end of the week. Tomorrow's Friday. Hope everyone has a fantastic weekend. My name's The Swinging Bull with PB Alerts. If you're looking for a new home, check the links in the description. You can join the Discord for free and just see how you like that and go from there. Also, if you want 4 high probability trade setups sent to your inbox every morning at 9 a.m. Eastern, check the very first link in the description. You can sign up for that absolutely free. And we've gotten some really good feedback about those 4 trade setups that are sent every morning. So, but yeah, other than that, Swinging Bull with PB Alerts. Hope everyone has a fantastic night, and I'll see everyone in the very next stream. Cheers.